Build professional skills this semester with Adobe Creative Cloud and create standout work both in and out of the classroom. Save big on professional creativity tools. Students get 65% off Adobe Creative Cloud, including Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, Acrobat Pro, and 20+ creative apps. No matter what project you're working on, Adobe Creative Cloud apps can help you take it to the next level. Visit adobe.com/student to learn more.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Minutes after the hour, that's Rihanna. This is a birthday bumper music selection by my friend Maggie, who doesn't listen to this show, but her Aunt Kathy does. So thank you to Aunt Kathy. You got to get your niece on board. I don't know what she's so busy doing in the middle of the night, but who knows? Who knows? But whatever it is, happy birthday, Maggie. All right. I am very, very pleased to welcome back to the program a Morano fave and someone who it has been far too long since we spoke to, Dr. David Eisenbach. He is a presidential historian, a historian in general, an author, a Columbia University professor, an expert on many things from the Saudi royal family to you name it. David, it's great to have you back in studio. What have you been up to?
Just teaching.
Yeah, how's the semester going at Columbia so far?
Quiet.
Really?
It's like we have a hangover. Everybody
from last year and the encampments and everything.
Just wants to keep it quiet. Let's just do classes and just enjoy ourselves.
Now, as a teacher, that's got to be a more welcoming environment for teaching, I would think.
Oh God, yeah, it's welcoming for the students too. It's good that it's calmed down.
Yeah. So, what happened? All those people that were camped out there, they're just not protesting anymore, or is it just regulated differently by Columbia?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. All right. We'll save that discussion for another day. All right. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke with Alan Lichtman. Alan Lichtman, very, very accomplished political scientist and professor at American University, and he says that he's predicted every presidential election accurately since 1984 using some keys that he developed from seismology, using the same sort of things that might predict earthquakes. He developed this with a seismologist to predict presidential elections. And when he was on this program, he explained how the keys work for him. This is what he said at the time.
The keys gauge the fundamental forces about how elections really work. That is votes up or down on the strength and performance of the White House party. Imagine that. It's governing, not campaigning, that counts. And the keys gauge that strength and performance.
Quickly, he went through what some of these keys are.
Mandate key based on U.S. House elections, incumbency, internal party contests for the nomination of the White House party, third party, short-term and long-term economy, policy change, social unrest, scandal, foreign/military failures and successes, and only two keys have anything to do with the candidates. And they are very high threshold keys, asking whether the incumbent and challenging party candidates are those once in a generation, across the board, inspirational candidates like Franklin Roosevelt and Ronald Reagan.
So using these keys, he's predicted, and I guess soon we'll find out if he's correct, that Kamala Harris is going to win the election. I know you're familiar with Alan Lichtman's work. You're no slouch yourself when it comes to presidential scholarship and being a historian. What do you make of his methodology, and what do you make of his pick this year?
I think his methodology is great. I think all of his keys really do kind of get into the seismic shift that determines presidential elections. his answers this year, they're not as clear as perhaps in previous years.
So what? Where do you maybe differ from his conclusions?
Well,
when
let's
it comes
go
to
through
this
it.
year?
Let's go through it. So everybody can play it along at home.
Okay.
What the idea? There's a series of 13 true/false questions. If the majority of your answers are false, the party in opposition wins. If they're true, the incumbent party wins. First one. After the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the House of Representatives than after the previous midterm elections, right? So that's false, right?
Which he acknowledges.
He acknowledges,
right.
absolutely. Okay. No, he's right about that. Number two, there is no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. Now, he says true. But if the Democrats didn't kind of rig it against RFK, there would have been a serious challenge. And if this is a really great question because it goes back, if you think about 76 with the Republicans and Ronald Reagan challenging Gerald Ford, 80 with Ted Kennedy challenging Jimmy Carter, even with Al Gore and against Bill Bradley in 2000, when you have that party challenge, it shows disunity. And even if you come back together, still there are lingering resentments. This time around, they didn't even give RFK a shot.
Or Dean Phillips, for that matter, or anybody.
But RFK would have been a serious problem. And then he runs third party, which gets to the third question. There is no significant third party or independent campaign. Well, RFK, he was polling 15% before he kind of dropped out and then endorsed the challenger. So, when you say, when Allen sort of dismisses the third party challenge, he's discounting RFK and the Greens. When you look at Jill Stein, the Democrats right now are running ads against Jill Stein.
I saw that, and Jill Stein was on this show recently, and she's certainly an energetic challenge. But I've asked Alan about this, and what he has said is that his barometer for a serious third-party candidate is polling over 10%, like Perot was in 92, for instance, and what RFK was doing at some point this year. Jill Stein, even in the most charitably looked upon poll from her perspective, she's not anywhere near 10%.
Well, here's where this year is kind of different because, look at Michigan. Look at the Lebanese community in Dearborn and the Arab American communities. Jill Stein is doing very well with them. And like I said, if the Democratic Party didn't think that Jill Stein, the Greens, were insignificant, they thought that they were insignificant, they wouldn't be running ads and putting up billboards in Arizona and in Michigan against her.
Yeah, well, so the third party key, you potentially differ. The serious contest key, you potentially differ. What do we think of the rest?
So then we get the economy questions. Short-term economy, the economy is not in recession during the election campaign. Well, we've changed the definition of what is a recession.
Right.
And we are also undercounting inflation. When you look at how we calculated inflation in 1990, back then, we're at 8% inflation. That then cuts into your economic growth numbers. Again, oftentimes, usually what happens when we get a stock market crash, then they announce, we've been in a recession for a while. So I think we are in a recession. Somebody will disagree, but it's not as clear as no. So we got another false there. Then we look at real per capita income growth, economic growth. During the term equals or exceeds mean growth during the previous two terms. So again, if you're undercounting inflation, your economic growth looks better. And I think that's what's going on right now. If you just ask yourself, do you feel that in the last term of Obama and the last term and the term of Trump, we were better off or worse off than we are now? I think most people would say it was better under Obama and Trump.
At 30 minutes after the hour, you're listening to The Other Side of Midnight. My guest is David Eisenbach. We are breaking down his analysis of Alan Lichtman's keys to the White House. This is a set of criteria that Lichtman himself has come up with. And David's differing from some of Alan's conclusions to Lichtman's own criteria. Go ahead.
By the way, I'm not doing this as an advocate. I'm not happy in it.
Understood. Yeah.
Major policy change. The incumbent administration affects major changes in national policy. Well, Alan says true. But what are those major challenges? Are we talking about the CHIPS Act? Are we talking about the Inflation Reduction Act? I mean, when I think of a major change in national policy, I'm thinking Obamacare. That was a major change, right? I don't see the major change there.
Right. Social Security, the New Deal, that kind of thing. Right. I get it. Okay. I mean, so he's crediting the CHIPS Act on the same kind of plane that something like Obamacare would have been.
Yeah. It's just not.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I would agree with you. That's true. And then what are any of the others?
There's no social unrest. There's no sustained social unrest during the term. Well, he doesn't DJ Columbia.
Clearly. No, but he's counting that, right, as there being social unrest right now. I think that he does count that against Harris, I think.
He does?
I believe so.
Okay.
And the Middle East and foreign policy, that's the other one he counts against her.
Again, he kind of like threw up his hands on that, if there is a foreign policy crisis, but those then really go into those foreign policy questions. Two more falses. The incumbent administration suffers no major failure in foreign or military affairs. Well, I see failures in Ukraine. I see failures with Israel and Gaza. That.
And what I brought up with him when he first mentioned that a few months ago, not in our most recent discussion, was the issue of the Afghanistan withdrawal, which, I mean, I don't know how you could have a greater foreign policy failure or scandal than that. And Alan's response was something along the lines of, people don't talk about that anymore, which I thought was kind of weak, but that's his keys. I'm not going to disagree with him.
No, absolutely. And again, right, this is, a matter of perception, but if you talk about Israel with anyone on either side, right, they're not happy, right? And they see this as a failure. And Ukraine, how can you look at that without seeing, just horror, regardless of which side? This is not a success.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, scandal. The incumbent administration is untainted by major scandal. Well, I think the Hunter Biden scandal was a major scandal, and we didn't get into it because it was kind of pushed away. But the fact is that he got off light.
And it would definitely seem that there's a lot of folks that were ready to impeach Biden over that would probably agree with you on that. So by your count at this point, how many falses or how many keys going against the incumbent party is that at this point?
We're now at 6.
6, okay, which is more than he's got. Go ahead.
All right. Charismatic incumbent. The incumbent party candidate is charismatic or a national hero.
Which is certainly not the case, and he acknowledges that. Okay, so then that's 8 that Harris has going against her.
The challenging party candidate is not charismatic or a national hero. Well, I think Trump's pretty charismatic.
See, I do too, but and I asked Lichtman about that, but Lichtman said that the kind of charismatic character like a Reagan or an Obama or a John F. Kennedy, it's not kind of subjective based on party the way it seemingly is with Trump. But that's the only one that he acknowledges is very subjective. So, and if you're just tuning in, I'm Frank Morano. This is The Other Side of Midnight. We're talking with David Eisenbach. By your count, there are 9 of the 13 keys that are turned against Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah. Well,
or is it 10?
We got the party mandate, false. No primary contest, false. Incumbent seeking election, false. No third party, false. Short-term economy, false. Strong long-term economy, false. Major policy change, false. No social unrest, false. No scandal, false. No foreign or military failure, false. No major or foreign policy crisis, false. Incumbent charismatic, false. Uncharismatic challenger, false.
So you've got her as 0 for 13.
Well, I'm just saying that there are ways of looking at this thing where this thing does not look good for Kamala Harris. And again, I'm not happy about this. I'm a Democrat. I just, want people to realize this thing is not a walkaway.
Well,
victory.
it would be certainly a kick in the craw for Alan Lichtman if, on his own scale, his own keys that he developed, you have a more accurate read on the keys than he does. You might have to write the next chapter of his book.
All due respect to Alan, he got the keys. I have great respect.
So
for
you
him.
like the methodology, but you think he has erred in his analyses of where he comes down on each of these.
I think we live in
weird 9 of them
in weird times. Just even thinking about unemployment. Unemployment is at historic lows. Not since the Eisenhower administration have we such low unemployment, but our labor participation rate has dropped off the shelf. The things that used to measure the economy just no longer make any sense.
So give me your prediction then. It sounds like you, by the Lichtman methodology, would be predicting a Trump victory.
Well, I don't think things are going well for the Biden administration. I think the Democratic Party is really going to have to come to terms and is going to need some major changes.
So it sounds like, again, you're predicting a Trump victory.
I'm not predicting anything.
You're not predicting it. All right. But it definitely doesn't sound like you're predicting a Harris victory, right?
I'm definitely not looking at a big blowout, that's for sure.
All right. You know what? It's interesting. The last time you were on the program, we were talking a little bit about what's going on with Saudi Arabia. And in talking about the presidents, it's so interesting because it doesn't seem to matter who the president is. It doesn't seem to matter their age, their ethnicity, their political party. The one thing they all have in common is they all bend over backwards, irrespective of what they say during the campaign trail, to suck up to the Saudi royal family and to get along with the Saudis and do their bidding, not just on foreign policy, but even on American domestic policy. For folks that are looking at the Middle East picture anew in light of what we've been through over the last year, where there's obviously a Saudi component to what's going on with Israel and Iran, educate folks. Why is that the case? Why does whoever get elected on January 20th, they magically don the Saudi garb and literally start kissing the hands and feet of the Saudi princes?
Yes. When Richard Nixon took the United States off the gold standard, the U.S. dollar off the gold standard, we had to back the dollar with something. And so we cut a deal with Saudi Arabia that formed what's called the petrodollar, basically an agreement that they would only sell oil in dollars. What this meant, and they would get OPEC to do the same, what this meant was that all these dollars now have to be sitting in accounts all around the world. We're talking trillions of dollars for everybody who wants to buy oil. Every country that has to buy oil has to hoard dollars. And so what happens is all these dollars get sucked out. That keeps our inflation down. And it sort of becomes our major export is the U.S. dollar.
So if Saudi Arabia decides tomorrow, hey, you know what? We're no longer trading oil in the greenback, the American dollar. We're going to trade it in yuan or something else.
Or we'll accept dollars and yuan. Now we're going to have trillions of dollars flooding back into the United States. If you think inflation is bad now, wait till that day comes. And
so it's that implicit threat or that leverage that the Saudis have that make every American president look the other way on Jamal Khashoggi, on 9/11, on you name it.
Yes, because if we lose Saudi Arabia's support, if they start accepting another currency except for dollars, then literally life as Americans will change.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii in sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
Did you read the new Bob Woodward book, War?
I haven't read it.
So I haven't read it yet either, but I've read a number of excerpts, and it seems like there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And one of the really interesting conversations that Biden apparently had with Woodward, it was about how even though Democrats and Republicans can't seem to agree upon much, when it comes to sending Americans to war, the two parties are very willing to set aside their differences. Apparently, Lindsey Graham reportedly said that only Biden could secure a U.S.-Saudi defense treaty because it would take a Democratic president to convince Democrats to vote to go to war for Saudi Arabia. Biden apparently responded, according to Woodward, let's do it. So this conversation took place in the context of Biden's attempts to negotiate a mega deal between the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Lindsey Graham had a publicly reported meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince in support of the deal, and the idea, which J.D. Vance also supports, was to create a permanent U.S.-led security alliance in the Middle East. So far, nobody, not Lindsey Graham, not Biden, not J.D. Vance, has disputed Woodward's version of the facts. Would that be a good idea for the United States?
It would just be putting out explicitly what has been U.S. policy for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
All right. This is why we're in those wars in the Middle East. It's for Saudi Arabia.
All right.
It's not for freedom and democracy.
You brought up the issue of the American dollar. President Trump, in his interview with Brian Kilmeade the other day, was talking about the BRICS summit and the difficulty for the American economy if the BRICS nations would move away from the dollar and get other countries to be part of their organization and move away from the dollar. Here was Vladimir Putin at the BRICS summit talking about sharing the values of peace and progress.
The discussions once again demonstrated that the states of the association share the universal values of peace, justice, and equality, and work together for the prosperity and well-being of our countries and peoples. The BRICS states stand in solidarity for the intensification of cooperation on the world stage, based on the key principles of the Charter of the United Nations. Together, they strive to contribute in every possible way to the formation of just a multipolar world order.
What's your view of what's happening with BRICS in general? And what do you think it means to America when it comes to the economy? Trump actually compared the impact of them moving away from the dollar as almost being equivalent to economic warfare. What's your take on BRICS economically and maybe even when it comes to geopolitically and national security wise?
Well, BRICS is something that's been coming for a long time. Ukraine has accelerated that. The United States, by putting sanctions on Russia, we had hoped that we would destroy Russia by cutting them off from the U.S. dollar. It didn't work. Everybody else looked at that and said, aha, their ability to destroy an economy is not as great as we thought. Maybe we can, A, get an alternative so that they can never threaten us again, and B, now buy oil with this new currency so that we can and we don't have to deal with U.S. dollars anymore. And we don't have to basically prop up the U.S. economy by hoarding their dollars and then buying their debt. So Trump's right that this is a major threat to the American way of life, and we've got to get on top of this.
By the way, if people have questions, we may try and squeeze in one or two. You can give us a call at 646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. I got an email from a listener, my buddy Paul, who wrote that BRICS is discussing issuing a token currency that each member country would be used for in terms of trade. Unlike the dollar, which is a fiat currency, this BRICS token would be redeemable for a value in 40% in gold and 60% in member nations' currencies. What's your read on that? One, is that true? Is that an accurate analysis of what they're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the goal for a while, and now it's just becoming more and more explicit. We have to understand, number one, it's going to be backed by gold and manufacturing, right? As a result of getting off the gold standard and then kind of becoming an economy of consumption and stocks and basically financialization, the U.S. economy now, we were taking advantage of this. We were living high on the hog. And as a result of that, we exported our manufacturing base to many of these countries, including Vietnam, by the way, that have now formed into BRICS. They actually make stuff. They actually sell important commodities like oil and natural gas. And so if their currency is going to be backed by real stuff and gold, that's a big challenge to the U.S. dollar. And we just keep on printing dollars and spending them on government.
Well, I mean, it certainly paints a pretty bleak picture economically. Lastly, we've been, we do have a lot of listeners in prison, and we were talking about prison food earlier in the week. I know you actually do some teaching in a jail or a prison. A lot of folks wonder about what the value of that is. These people committed crimes, in some cases pretty serious crimes. Why should they have access to Columbia professors or any sort of bells and whistles when it comes to education? Why not just lock them up, throw away the key, let them do whatever they have to do? Why should we be expending any sort of resources to give folks that are incarcerated because of their own choices an education?
Well, one, education is a way to make sure that when they're released, they don't come back. And they don't do crimes when they're out. Secondly, I believe in redemption, that you can't just write somebody off because of something they've done in the past if they want to change. And I've seen some sort of beautiful things happen in the prisons in terms of what these men and women have done to really change themselves and become better people. And that to me is a beautiful thing.
Well, I mentioned the food because I would say that's probably the most common complaint I've gotten from folks that are currently incarcerated is the food. What is the most common complaint that you hear about prison life?
Just the lack of the control over where you are and when you're going to do anything. That surrender. People don't realize prison really is a big punishment.
Yeah.
Losing your freedom, not just to be out and about, but just your time, where you are and what you do. It's dehumanizing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I completely agree with that based on my experience. You've written a lot of books over the years. One of the books that you wrote with Larry Flint was actually just reissued this year, One Nation Under Sex, How the Private Lives of Presidents, First Ladies, and Their Lovers Changed the Course of American History. What was it like to work with Larry Flint on a book?
Oh, it was great. It was great. He was just an amazing character and a good friend.
I interviewed him once or twice, and it was a little tough because his speech is so slow. But obviously, when it comes to the printed word, that wouldn't be reflected. Give me one example of how maybe the course of American history was altered by the private life of a president or a first lady.
That's a great question. It's been a while since I've...
I know. I threw that at you kind of out of left field.
That's all right. Well, I definitely think when we look at, for me, the most surprising thing was Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt. When Eleanor Roosevelt discovered Franklin's affair, their kind of marriage in public remained stable, but behind the scenes, he went his way and she went hers. She was always kind of against women's rights, against the right to vote. She had her kind of Victorian level of racism and anti-Semitism, but she was transformed when she got into a lesbian relationship and with two women who re-educated her and really enlightened her about all these issues of civil rights and women's rights. And she became transformed by it. And she became a big force behind a great deal of progress that began with the New Deal and then continued to transform America for the best. And she's no doubt the best first lady we've ever had.
Did you like the Ken Burns Roosevelt's documentary on PBS?
Yeah, sure.
You didn't say that with any. I mean, I know they didn't have you in it, so how much credibility can they have? But
my documentaries have a different style. It's, so you're talking.
How can people see your documentaries? By the way.
Well, I did a lot of stuff for the History Channel, and right now, check out Netflix. I'm on this a Netflix series about Wyatt Earp and the shootout at the OK Corral. Yeah.
We're going to have you back another day to talk about that, maybe on the anniversary. That'll be fun. David Eisenbach, it is always a treat to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If you want to comment on any portion of our conversation, you can feel free to do so. 646-720-0635. That's 1-646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.